The perfect facade. The day Kareem proposed to me on the Lahore Fort's rooftop during sunset, I believed I had found my forever. The ancient stones beneath us seemed to whisper promises of eternity as he knelt with that emerald ring, my favorite stone, glinting in the golden hour light. 4 years together had culminated in this perfect moment, and I, Meera Patel, daughter of immigrants who had sacrificed everything for my future, felt like I was finally making them proud. "You're everything I've ever wanted," Kareem had whispered, his voice gentle as the breeze that carried our laughter across the city. And I believed him. How could I not? Our story was the kind people wrote songs about. University classmates who became study partners, then friends, then something more. He was brilliant with his finance degree and quick wit, and I was the diligent medical resident who somehow caught his eye despite my perpetual exhaustion and coffee-stained scrubs. We moved in together after graduation, turning a small apartment into our sanctuary. Every morning, he'd leave a handwritten note by my coffee mug before heading to his investment firm. Little gestures that made me feel cherished. My mother adored him. My father respected him. My friends envied our stability in a world of casual dating and ghosting. We were that couple, the ones who gave others hope that love could be both passionate and enduring. "I think we should have the wedding in spring," Kareem suggested one evening as we scrolled through venue options. "When the gardens are blooming, like the day we first met in the university courtyard." I leaned into him, inhaling his familiar sandalwood scent. "That's perfect." April, then. The planning consumed us. In a good way, I thought. Guest lists, caterers, floral arrangements. My mother cried when I tried on wedding lehengas, the red and gold fabric catching the light as I twirled. "You'll be the most beautiful bride," she whispered, pinning my grandmother's antique jhumkas to my ears. If I'm being honest, there were moments that should have given me pause. The late nights at the office that became more frequent. The way his phone would flip face down whenever I entered the room. The sudden business trips that seemed to multiply. But love is a powerful filter. It transforms red flags into mere shadows that disappear when you turn to face them directly. "You're working too hard," I told him one night when he came home past midnight, his tie loosened and eyes avoiding mine. "The wedding planning can wait if you need to focus on your career." He kissed my forehead. "Nothing is more important than us. I'm just securing our future." 2 months before the wedding, Kareem suggested I invite Zara, his colleague, to be part of our planning committee. "She has incredible taste," he explained, "and she's organized events for the firm before." I met Zara at a cafe near the hospital after my shift. She was everything I wasn't. Polished, perfectly styled, with manicured nails that had never been scrubbed with surgical soap. But she was warm, enthusiastic about our wedding, offering suggestions that aligned perfectly with my vision. I found myself grateful for her help as my residency demands intensified. "Kareem talks about you constantly," she assured me over our second meeting. "He's so in love." Those words filled the empty spaces of doubt that had begun to form in my mind. This was my fairy tale, after all. The successful doctor and her charming finance executive building a life worthy of our parents' sacrifices. 1 week before our engagement party, Kareem surprised me with a weekend getaway to the mountains. We hiked during the day and curled up by the fireplace at night, planning our future, the house we would buy, the children we might have, the anniversaries we would celebrate. In those intimate moments, with the world reduced to just us two, everything felt right again. "I can't wait to call you my wife," he whispered against my hair. I closed my eyes, savoring the moment and pushing away the faint unease that had been my shadow these past few months. This was happiness. This was love. This was everything I had worked for. This was perfect, or so I thought. Cracks in the mirror. The first tangible sign came 3 months before our wedding. I was organizing Kareem's dresser, a simple act of domestic affection, when I found the receipt tucked between his folded shirts. A jewelry store I didn't recognize, dated just 2 weeks prior. The amount made my breath catch, nearly twice my monthly residence salary for something that wasn't my engagement ring, wasn't listed among our wedding expenses, wasn't anything I'd ever seen. I placed it back exactly where I'd found it, heart hammering against my ribs. Perhaps it was a surprise, I reasoned. An anniversary gift, though our dating anniversary had passed months ago. Or maybe something for his mother, whose birthday approached in a few weeks. That night, I casually mentioned his mother's birthday over dinner. Should we get her something special? Jewelry, maybe? Kareem didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. Already handled it. Got her that silk shawl she's been eyeing. The receipt burned in my memory, but I smiled and nodded, swallowing my questions with a mouthful of food that suddenly tasted like sawdust. 2 days later, Zara called to reschedule our meeting about the wedding flowers. Sorry, Mira, something came up at work. Kareem and I have this presentation that's taking forever to prepare. No problem, I replied automatically, then paused. Wait, Kareem told me he was meeting with clients from Dubai today. The silence that followed lasted only seconds, but stretched between us like an accusation. Oh, right, Zara recovered smoothly. The presentation is for them. I misspoke. That night, I lay awake beside Kareem, studying his sleeping profile. The gentle curve of his lips, the shadow of his eyelashes against his cheeks, features I had memorized and loved. For the first time, I wondered if I truly knew the man behind them. The invitations went out. Deposits were paid. My wedding lehenga hung in my parents' closet awaiting final alterations. Life marched toward our wedding day with relentless momentum, even as my certainty began to crumble. I found myself checking his phone when he showered, scanning for evidence of... what exactly? Betrayal? Deceit? I didn't know what I was looking for until I found it. Text messages to someone saved simply as Z, filled with inside jokes and late-night conversations that felt too intimate, too familiar. Working late again tonight, Kareem announced one evening, kissing my cheek before heading for the door. Don't wait up. I nodded, smiled, played my part. Then I did something I never thought I would. I followed him. The restaurant was upscale, tucked away in a part of the city we rarely visited. Through the window, I watched Kareem pull out a chair for Zara, his hand lingering on her back. I watched him present her with a small velvet box, the mystery purchase, mystery no more. I watched her face light up as she opened it, revealing a delicate diamond bracelet that caught the candlelight. I watched him kiss her, not a friendly peck, but with the same tenderness he showed me. I didn't confront him. Not that night. Not the next day. Not as we met with the wedding planner to discuss seating arrangements. Not as he looked into my eyes and promised to love me forever during our pre-wedding counseling session. Instead, I began gathering evidence, taking screenshots, saving receipts. Hotel bookings under his company's name on weekends he claimed to be visiting his brother. Restaurant charges in places he'd never mentioned taking me. And finally, the emails, intimate exchanges that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. You seem distracted lately, my mother observed as she helped me try on my jewelry for the wedding. Pre-wedding jitters? I forced a smile. Just tired from hospital rounds? Marriage is hard work, she said, adjusting my grandmother's necklace around my throat. But when you find a good man like Kareem, it's worth every struggle. I wondered what she would say if she knew, if anyone knew. The shame of being so thoroughly deceived felt almost as crushing as the betrayal itself. I had built my identity around being perceptive, intelligent. How had I missed this? 2 weeks before the wedding, I had dinner with my closest friend, Nadia, the only person who had noticed my withdrawal, my hollow smiles. Over wine and her mother's homemade biryani, I finally spoke the truth aloud. Kareem is having an affair with Zara. Has been for at least 6 months. Nadia's fork clattered against her plate. Cancel the wedding, she said immediately, eyes flashing with protective anger. We'll deal with the fallout together. But something had crystallized within me during those weeks of silent knowledge. A plan, perhaps cruel, perhaps justified. No, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. The wedding will proceed as planned. Mira, you can't possibly... I need everyone to see who he truly is, I said, myself included. As the wedding day approached, I moved through preparations like a ghost. My smile never reached my eyes, but no one seemed to notice. They were too caught up in the excitement of the event. Kareem continued his deception, growing more careless as the day approached. as if convinced I was too invested in our future to question him now. The night before our wedding, he returned late from his bachelor party, smelling of unfamiliar perfume. I pretended to be asleep as he slipped into bed beside me, his phone buzzing with a text that he quickly answered. In the darkness, I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling, rehearsing what I would do when the moment came. Because it would come, I was certain of it. People reveal themselves in moments of high emotion, and I was counting on Kareem to reveal himself to everyone who had ever believed in us, including me. The name that changed everything. Our wedding day dawned with perfect weather, clear blue skies and gentle sunshine, as if the universe approved of what was to come. The hotel ballroom transformed into a dream with cascading flowers and twinkling lights. Relatives flew in from across the globe. My father's eyes glistened with tears as he saw me in my bridal attire, red and gold fabric shimmering as I moved. "You look like a queen," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Your mother and I are so proud." Each word was a dagger to my heart. They didn't know what was coming. No one did, except perhaps Nadia, who watched me with worried eyes as my makeup artist applied the final touches. "Are you sure about this?" she asked when we were momentarily alone. "It's not too late to call everything off quietly." I met her gaze in the mirror. "I'm sure." The ceremony proceeded with all the proper rituals, the priests chanting filling the air as Kareem and I circled the sacred fire. His hand felt foreign in mine, his vows hollow. I spoke my promises mechanically, watching his confident smile, his performance of the devoted groom. He was good. I had to give him that. If I hadn't seen the evidence with my own eyes, I might have continued believing the fantasy, as tradition dictated. We changed for the reception. Kareem into an elegant navy sherwani, me into a blush pink lehenga embroidered with silver. We entered to applause, took our seats at the elevated table overlooking our guests. Champagne flowed, plates of gourmet food appeared and disappeared. Speeches began. My father's emotional tribute, my best friend's tearful recollections, Kareem's brother's humorous anecdotes. Then it was Kareem's turn. He stood, champagne glass in hand, the picture of a joyful groom. His voice carried confidently across the now silent room. "When I first met Mira in university, I knew she was special," he began, his eyes meeting mine with practiced affection. "Her intelligence, her compassion, her dedication, everything about her drew me in. Over the years, our love has only grown stronger." He continued with our rehearsed narrative, our first date, the challenges of my medical residency, the moment he realized I was the one. The guests smiled, captivated by our seemingly perfect love story. I maintained my serene expression, hands folded in my lap, waiting. "These past months of planning our future together have been the happiest of my life," Kareem said, his voice softening with what anyone else would interpret as emotion. "And I want to thank everyone who has supported us on this journey." He turned to face me directly, raising his glass higher. I knew from the moment I met Zara that she was the woman I wanted to spend my life with. To my beautiful bride, the silence that followed was absolute. Kareem's face drained of color as he realized his mistake. His eyes widened with horror, darting from me to the confused guests and back again. The name, Zara, hung in the air like smoke. Several guests shifted uncomfortably. Others exchanged whispers behind their hands. From the corner of my eye, I saw Zara herself, seated at a table near the back, go completely still, her face a mask of panic. Kareem attempted recovery, forcing a laugh. "I'm sorry, wedding nerves." Of course I meant Mira, but it was too late. The damage was done. The perfect illusion shattered with a single word, the wrong name at the worst possible moment. I felt strangely calm as I stood, smoothing my lehenga with steady hands. The past months of anxiety and heartbreak crystallized into perfect clarity. This was the moment I had anticipated, the moment of truth. As I stepped toward the microphone, I caught my parents' confused expressions, my friends' concerned glances. Kareem reached for my arm, but I gently moved past him, taking my place at the center of attention. I took the microphone, meeting the eyes of our guests, people who had traveled from around the world to witness what they thought was a celebration of love. people who deserved the truth as much as I had. My voice, when it came, surprised even me with its strength. "I believe," I said quietly, "that Karim just told you exactly who he really is." Taking back. My voice. The microphone felt cool against my palm as I faced our guests. Hundreds of eyes watched me, some confused, others embarrassed, a few with dawning comprehension. In the front row, my mother clutched my father's arm, her expression pleading with me not to make a scene. But some truths demand to be spoken aloud. "For those of you wondering who Zara is," I continued, my voice steady despite the thundering of my heart. "She's sitting at table 12. She's been Karim's colleague for the past year and a half. She's been helping us plan this wedding. And, as I discovered 3 months ago, she's also been his lover." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Karim lunged for the microphone, but Nadia was faster, stepping between us with quiet determination. My cousin Rohan appeared at my side, a silent guardian as I continued. "I found the evidence weeks ago, the text messages, the hotel receipts, the jewelry he bought her." I gestured toward Zara's wrist, where the diamond bracelet caught the light. "The same jewelry he paid for with the money we were saving for our first home." Karim's face contorted with rage and humiliation. "Mira, stop this! You're embarrassing yourself." I met his gaze directly. "No, Karim. For the first time in months, I'm not embarrassing myself. I'm standing in my truth." I turned back to our stunned audience. I considered canceling this wedding when I discovered the affair. But then I realized, why should I be the one to walk away in shame? Why should I be the one to make excuses to everyone who had already booked flights and hotels? Why should I be the one to bear the burden of his betrayal? The ballroom remained eerily silent, hundreds of witnesses to this unraveling. So I made a decision. I would come today, go through with the ceremony, and wait. Because I knew, somehow I knew, that a man who could lie so easily to my face for months would eventually reveal himself. I just didn't expect it would happen so dramatically. I removed the wedding ring from my finger, placing it gently on the table before us. The small clink it made against the wood seemed to echo through the silent room. "I want to apologize to all of you who came here expecting to celebrate love. In a way, though, you are witnessing something important. The moment a woman chooses her own dignity over a man's deception." My eyes found my parents. My father sat perfectly still, his face a study in controlled fury. My mother wept silently. But there was something else in her expression now. Pride, breaking through the shock and disappointment. "To my family and friends, thank you for your support. I'm sorry for the deception, but I'm not sorry for what happens next." I turned to Karim one last time. "I hope Zara understands what she's getting. A man who could betray one woman so thoroughly will likely do the same to the next." I handed the microphone to the wedding planner, whose professional composure had given way to undisguised awe. As I stepped away from the head table, Nadia fell into step beside me. Behind us, chaos erupted. Karim's family arguing with mine, guests rising from their seats, Zara making a hasty exit through a side door. But I didn't look back. With each step toward the exit, I felt lighter, as if shedding years of expectations and compromise. In the hotel lobby, I paused, drawing a deep breath of air that suddenly seemed fresher, cleaner. "What now?" Nadia asked, squeezing my hand. I smiled. A real smile, perhaps my first in months. "Now I go home, change out of this lehenga, and begin the rest of my life." "Alone?" "Not alone," I corrected her. "With myself. There's a difference." Outside, the evening air caressed my face like a blessing. My phone began buzzing incessantly. Family members, friends, probably Karim himself. I silenced it and slipped it into Nadia's purse. "They can wait," I said. "Tonight is mine." We walked to her car in comfortable silence. As she drove me away from the hotel, from the wedding, from the life I thought I wanted, I watched the city lights blur past the window. Each street lamp we passed seemed to illuminate a different possibility for my future. One without deception, without compromise, without shrinking myself to fit someone else's narrative. It wouldn't be easy. There would be family fallout, financial complications, explanations to be made. The whispers and gossip would follow me for months. But for the first time since discovering Kareem's betrayal, I felt something unexpected blooming in my chest. Hope. Not for reconciliation or even revenge, but for redemption. For the chance to rewrite my story on my own terms. For the opportunity to discover who Mira could be when she wasn't defined by being Kareem's fiancée, Kareem's wife, Kareem's betrayed lover. Just Mira, doctor, daughter, friend, and now, survivor. As Nadia's car turned onto the highway, taking me toward an uncertain but authentic future, I realized I wasn't leaving empty-handed after all. I was carrying away the most important thing, myself, whole, unbroken, free. Building from ashes. 6 months after what my friends now delicately referred to as the incident, I stood before the mirror in my new apartment, adjusting my lab coat. The hospital had promoted me to attending physician, the youngest in my department, and today I would lead my first team of residents. The woman in the reflection looked different from the bride who had walked into that hotel ballroom half a year ago, stronger jawline, clearer eyes, shoulders that no longer curled inward as if anticipating a blow. "Dr. Patel, you're going to be late for your own rounds," I reminded my reflection, smoothing back hair I'd recently cut short in a moment of liberation. The aftermath of the wedding had been precisely as messy as expected. Kareem's family demanded the return of all gifts and threatened a lawsuit for public humiliation that never materialized. My more traditional relatives suggested I had overreacted, that I should have handled his indiscretion privately. Even my father, after his initial anger subsided, wondered if I could have found a less dramatic way to exit the relationship. But I had no regrets. That moment at the microphone had been my reclamation, my declaration of self-worth. Everything that followed, the gossip, the financial sorting, the awkward encounters with mutual friends, was simply the cost of freedom. A price I would gladly pay again. My phone buzzed with a text from Nadia. "Dinner tonight to celebrate your promotion? The usual place?" I smiled, typing back a quick confirmation. Nadia had been my constant throughout the rebuilding process, never once suggesting I had made the wrong choice. She had helped me find this apartment, held me through the inevitable breakdown that came weeks after the wedding when the adrenaline finally wore off, and championed my decision to focus entirely on my career for the immediate future. The hospital corridors felt different today as I walked them with newfound authority. My residents gathered around, eager and nervous, as I began morning rounds. Teaching came naturally to me, something I hadn't expected but deeply enjoyed. "The patient in room 415 presented with atypical symptoms," I explained, leading them toward the room. "What would you look for first?" As they offered suggestions, I caught sight of a familiar figure at the nurse's station, Dr. Vikram Joshi. The neurosurgeon, who had sent me a kind email after news of my wedding, spread through hospital gossip channels. Not condolences exactly, but acknowledgement of my courage. We had worked together occasionally since then, establishing a professional respect that never ventured into personal territory. He nodded in greeting as our eyes met, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. I nodded back, returning my attention to my residents. Later that evening, as I was preparing to leave, he appeared beside me in the doctor's lounge. "Congratulations on the promotion, Dr. Patel," he said, his voice carrying the slight musical lilt of his Gujarati heritage. "Well deserved. Thank you, Dr. Joshi." He hesitated, then added, "I've been meaning to ask. There's a medical conference in Delhi next month on emerging infectious diseases. Given your research interests, I thought you might be attending." I smiled. "I am, actually. Presenting a paper on antibiotic resistance patterns in urban populations." "Excellent. Perhaps we could coordinate our travel plans?" "As colleagues, of course." The careful addition made me smile. "As colleagues," I agreed. "That would be practical." He nodded, seemingly satisfied, and left with a wave. I watched him go, appreciating his respect for the boundaries I had established since the incident. Unlike others who saw me as either damaged goods or an exciting scandal, Vikram had always treated me as simply Dr. Patel, competent physician, serious researcher, complete person. Whether anything would develop between us remained to be seen. I was in no rush. These months of solitude had taught me the value of my own company, the peace of making decisions based solely on my needs and desires. If Vikram became more than a colleague someday, it would be because he added to that peace, not because he rescued me from loneliness. At the restaurant that evening, Nadia raised her glass in toast. To Dr. Patel, attending physician and all-around badass. I laughed, clinking my glass against hers. To new beginnings? Speaking of which, she said, eyes twinkling with mischief, I saw you talking to Dr. Neurosurgeon today. Anything interesting? Professional courtesy, I replied, then added with a small smile, so far. Our conversation drifted to her work, her recent breakup, the book club we'd joined together. Normal life, the kind I had feared might be forever tainted by scandal. Yet here it was, flowing around me, including me. After dinner, I walked home through streets bright with evening activity. Families laughed together in restaurant windows. Couples strolled hand in hand. Students hunched over laptops in late-night cafes. The ordinary ballet of human connection continued all around me. 6 months ago, I had feared I might always feel like an outsider to this dance. The woman who was betrayed, who made a scene, who walked away. But time had worked its gentle alchemy. I was becoming known for other things now. My research, my teaching, my friendship, my quiet strength. The following week, I received an email from a women's support organization asking if I would speak at their annual conference about resilience after betrayal. My first instinct was to decline, to keep that chapter of my life firmly closed. But as I considered the invitation, I realized my story might serve others facing similar crossroads. I agreed to a single session, titled simply, Choosing Yourself. Not a tell-all about Kareem's betrayal or the dramatic wedding scene, but a thoughtful exploration of recognizing one's worth when others fail to, of trusting one's instincts when evidence contradicts promises, of finding the courage to stand alone, even when tradition and expectation push for compromise. As I prepared my presentation, I realized how far I'd come from that bewildered woman who found a jewelry receipt and began unraveling the tapestry of lies. The betrayal had nearly broken me, but the aftermath had rebuilt me, stronger, more authentic, more compassionate toward myself and others. The night before the conference, I called my mother. Our relationship had evolved since the wedding, initial disappointment giving way to a deeper understanding between us. "Are you nervous about tomorrow?" she asked. "A little," I admitted. "It's different, speaking about personal experience rather than medical research." "You will help many women," she said with certainty. "And perhaps some men, too." "I hope so." "Mira," she added softly, "your father and I, we are so proud of the woman you have become. More than if you had simply been someone's wife." Tears pricked my eyes. "Thank you, Ami. That means everything." After we hung up, I stood on my small balcony, watching the city lights against the night sky. Somewhere out there, Kareem continued his life. With or without Zara, I neither knew nor cared. He had been a chapter in my story, not its author, not its ending. I thought about the young women who would be in the audience tomorrow, some trapped in relationships built on deceit, others recovering from betrayals of their own. I would tell them what I had learned, that healing isn't linear, that dignity has a price worth paying, that the most important relationship is the one you have with yourself. And I would tell them what I now knew with bone-deep certainty, that sometimes the most beautiful beginnings arise from the ashes of what we thought we wanted. That sometimes walking away isn't an ending at all, it's a doorway